Audible? All right. A very warm good evening to everyone. Let us begin. Thank you so much for writing in the chat box. We shall begin today's prayer with a wonderful poem by Rabindranath Tagore. The lyrics will always be up on screen. So just in case you have any audio issue, see the lyrics.
Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where timeless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habits, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake.
Thank you
Where
very
the mind
much
is without fear.
for joining me in the prayer. Thank you very much for joining me in the prayer. And now, with your kind permission, we shall begin with today's session. Today's session is all about competency-based item writing. And this is your facilitator for the evening, Ms. Khyati Dwarkadas, welcoming you into today's session. Now, item writing is an art and a science. What makes it an art and a science? It is an art because it needs a lot of practice to master. There are general guidelines, but no fixed sets of rules and regulations, no formulae to guarantee a good item. At the same time, it is a science because it stimulates thinking, inspires learning, it helps self-reflection and informs teaching. There are a set of sound principles and techniques to be followed. So when we talk about item writing, we need to understand why are we assessing. We need to understand the objectives of an assessment and the role of questions. So when we say why assess, we need to understand we are assessing to diagnose the level of proficiency in learning, to identify the gaps in learning, and to identify the appropriate approaches to remediate learning. So assessment is for learning and no longer is it of learning. The role of questions is to meet these key objectives of assessment. So you assess, you diagnose, you do a remedial, and you go back and assess. Now, have you heard of the Bloom's taxonomy? Yes, it is absolutely in front of you on your screen. When you look at the Bloom's taxonomy, it starts from the lowest order of remember and takes you up to the highest order, which is create. So remember is all about recall, the when, the where, the who, the what. When you talk about understand, it is all about the how and the why. And apply is about how is it used, how does it work. Then you come to analyze, which talks about why is something used, why does it work, what is the cause of it, what is the reason, what do you infer from it, what does it suggest. Evaluate talks about the effect, the impact, the result. What would happen if something like this happened? So in social sciences, we do have this example. What would happen one day if all the oil resources in the world were over? Or for example, now in the tomato crisis in the country, what would happen if all the tomatoes of the country were over? That sets you thinking. And then you come to create. How would you develop a new plan? What can you design? What can you plan? What could you produce? So if all the tomatoes of the country were over, what would you then be producing? Which is the next alternative crop? How can you innovate to produce more tomatoes? What can you invent to produce tomatoes? So if you look at the question matrix or the Bloom's taxonomy, we have the lower order questions at the bottom, which are the remember and understand. We have the middle order questions of application in the middle. The analyze, the evaluate, and create are the higher order thinking questions. Now, anytime that you start making your questions, you have to keep in mind before you start that is this topic worth evaluating, and does it test higher cognitive function or just simply recall? When you are talking about understanding questioning skills, you have to keep in mind that one of the goals of questioning or teaching is not only to evaluate learning outcomes, but also to keep the students focused on their learning. Hence, it is important that as teachers, we question only the thinking and learning process. If questioning skills are effectively used, students will discover that the question is a very valuable learning tool. It is a device through which they can organize their thinking to achieve their objectives. So good questions are purposeful, they are clear, they are brief, they are very, very natural, thought-provoking, limited in scope, and adapted to the level of the class. I hope you are taking down notes from what we are discussing. After all, everybody has exams coming up and all of us are into setting papers. So we should be able to set new and fresh papers by the new patterns in our subjects. So when we understand questioning skills, it means it is a way of getting a feedback. What are we taking a feedback on? To evaluate student progress and an important way to increase student learning. It is also one kind of a way in which students in our classroom setup are forced to think in the class. Very often, we treat our students like sponges, the devices to soak content without expecting them to think. Okay, a lot of nice things are coming up in the chat. Now, effective use of questioning is a critical asset in every good teacher's toolbox. So, like you have a mechanic, a good mechanic knows the best tool for the operation he is going to be carrying out. A good teacher knows the best tool, knows which question to ask when. So when you are presenting your questions, you need to keep the Bloom's taxonomy in mind, where your recall and understanding are lower order questions, application based are middle order, and the other three are the higher order. Now look at this example on your screen. I taught Stripe how to whistle, but the teacher says I didn't hear him whistling. And the teacher says, I taught Stripe how to whistle. I did not say he has learned how to whistle. What do you see in this image? You can write in the chat box. What do you see in the image? आपको इस तस्वीर में क्या दिख रहा है? Nishant Singh says only theory has been taught. Somebody wrote ineffective teacher. The practical approach is not there. This is absolutely teacher-led. Teacher has taught. मैंने अपना काम कर दिया. बच्चे ने पढ़ा नहीं पढ़ा वो मेरा काम नहीं है. ये वो बात है. पर competency based education क्या दिखाता है? Teacher will teach and the student will learn. तो यदि हमने इसी तस्वीर को competency based बनाया होता तो इसमें आता at the end of today's unit, Stripe will demonstrate how to whistle. ऑडियो पूरी है, मेरी आवाज भरपूर पहुंच रही है. So let's come to item and item writing. The task and question that we use to construct a test item is called item writing, and the range of techniques involved in preparing this is also called item writing. The statement is called an item. The techniques used in preparing the statement is called item writing. So when you start with item writing, the first step is focus on the content of the topic that you wish to assess. Then second step, decide on what knowledge or proficiency or cognitive process do you want your student to demonstrate. You can even ask yourself two questions before you frame any question. What should the student know? And what should the student be able to do? So when we talk about features of multiple choice questions or multiple choice items, it asks a question or establishes the situation for a response. MCQs allow valid, reliable, and economical measurement of wide range of content. And there are always 4 options in an MCQ. Why do we say 4? If you have 4 options, the probability of getting the correct answer is reduced. Look at the components of an MCQ or a multiple choice item. The stem or the initial part of the question in which the task is defined. Then you have your 4 options. The correct answer is called the key. The incorrect options are called the distractors. Look at this example. The Constitution in India was implemented in the year. So that is the stem. Now look at the options. You have 4 options, which are all 4 years, very close to each other, but very significant in the Indian freedom struggle. So all 4 years become very significant. The correct answer is the key, and the remaining 3 incorrect options are the distractors. The stem should be clearly worded and written in direct question form or an incomplete statement. It should contain only one concept and include as much of the item as possible and should be free of irrelevant material. Use a negatively stated stem only when significant learning outcomes require it. Stress the negative word used in the stem. General rules: keep the stem and distractor short. There should be no ambiguity in interpretation. And in case if you're keeping a picture or something, thinking of doing that, always consider, can the students answer the question without looking at the image? If so, you don't need the image. Now, there are multiple types of multiple choice questions. Some are question forms, some are incomplete statements, some are simple, some are complex, some questions are assertion reasoning based. Now, this is a picture of a desert. Which word in this image best defines or defines it the most? Desert. Which word defines the desert the most from the image? And you can see the 4 answers. Anybody who wants to try answering it? Absolutely. A lot of people have immediately put the word oasis there. Oasis is the correct answer. You may clap for yourself if you write oasis. Now you look at the data here. There's GDP data and there is per capita GDP data of 2 countries, Japan and Germany. Now give me the correct answer from this. This one, the question has changed. Pankaj says it's answer 4, but Prabhat Jha feels it is 3. Mohinder Kaur also feels it is 3. And the correct answer is 4. Japan has a bigger population than Germany. So clap for ourselves. So there are some examples from other subjects too. Curriculum aligned competency based test items like mathematics for class 6, basic geometrical ideas. Joy learns the art of knitting from his grandmother. Which one of the following pictures can be an example of a line segment? Absolutely, let's clap for you. Option B. How many lines can pass through a point? How many lines can pass through a point? Infinite, absolutely. Which of the following is an open curve? And I am told by many people that the answer once again is B. Why is this figure not a polygon? कर्व लाइन है इसलिए पॉलीगॉन नहीं है. This is now from mathematics class 9 coordinate geometry. Okay, so everybody tells me now in the chat that a side can only have 2, not 4. Wow. Let me clap for you. There is a paved road. Which bear is nearest to the paved road? People are telling me answer is 425. But the answer is 467 has been injured. The forest rescue team starts from the control room and decides to use the paved road. Which road should they take? Okay. So if you did not know what I'm talking to, look at this. This is your paved road. You have pair 415, 389, 467, 425. The remaining questions go by the road. How far is bear 425 from road X? So here's road X, here's bear 425. You have to do the math. A tiger is at 11.4. How far is it from the nearest bear? That's how you will start thinking. The picture was very simple. Now let us take a look at science, biology. There's a passage on Peter Norman. So why do ballerinas have boots made to their toes? Based on that passage you had to tell me. They've acquired. All right. Do you think these injuries will make any change in the DNA or genes? Okay. Will their offspring be born with such feet? Will their child also have such feet? Many are saying no. Is it an acquired or inherited trait? And I already have got acquired trait in the answer. So look at this one. Sex ratio refers to the number of females per 1,000 males in the population. Odisha has a better sex ratio than Madhya Pradesh. All other indicators being equal, how does this affect the HDI of the two states? How does it affect the Human Development Index? It does not affect the Human Development Index, as sex ratio is not used in the counting of Human Development Index. Look at the assertion and reasoning type. Soil formation and erosion go hand in hand, but sometimes this balance is disrupted by human activities. The formation of soil takes millions of years, while soil erosion takes much less time. It is C. Look at the map. Which of the following deductions can you definitely make? So let me look at the answer and show you. The answer was B, Germany. If we are looking at a federalism map, you can't look at China. China is non-federal. So you could have had any of these points to give you a full 3-mark answer. So I now need you to watch this video. I will stop sharing this screen and I will make you watch this video on the other screen. So please do watch it. Once again, you will get the lyrics on the screen. So if you have any audio issue, don't worry. Just give me a moment to share the screen. Just sharing the screen with the video.
Choice question. First, let's break down the part.
The video, is it shared now? Are you able to see the video? Could you please mention in the chat if the video is visible?
Parts of a multiple choice question. Check out this example. This is called the stem. It's the initial statement or question that requires a response. These are called alternatives. They are the different response options to the stem. One of the alternatives is the correct answer. It's the right response to the stem. While the rest are called distractors. They are incorrect responses to the stem and serve to throw off the unprepared test taker. Great, you may be wondering, but how do I make a killer multiple choice question? Here are 10 tips to use as guidelines. Number 1. Be sure to present a clear question or problem in the stem of your test item. You want to make certain that a test taker who knows the subject matter will be able to answer correctly. Number 2. Don't introduce new language. For example, if the course refers to horses as horses, but then the test question refers to stallions and fillies, which are types of horses, the test taker will be unfairly confused. Number 3. Whenever possible, avoid writing negative stated stems. For example, which of the following does not mean a male horse can be rephrased as which of the following means a female horse, and will generally result in test responses that better reflect what has been learned. Number 4. If you have many multiple choice questions in your test, vary the position of the correct answer. The easiest way to do this is to shuffle around the alternatives for each question after you've created the entire test. Number 5. Keep the alternatives a consistent length and format within the same test item. Generally, we have a tendency to make the correct answer longer, more detailed, and more complex than the other alternatives. Test takers pick up on this and tend to select those longer alternatives as a result. Number 6. All the alternatives in a test item should be plausible and mutually exclusive. Carefully chosen, credible-seeming alternatives will help you confirm that your learners have grasped the finer points of what you've taught. Number 7. Limit your use of the alternatives, none of the above, and all of the above. These are lazy alternatives and generally frustrate test takers needlessly. Number 8. Consider presenting a chart, a reading excerpt, or a short case, and writing a series of questions in which test takers have to interpret what you've presented in order to select the correct answers. These questions are more difficult to create, and, unsurprisingly, can be the best kinds of multiple choice questions for assessing learners. Number 9. Proofread. When you are done creating your entire test, run through it, or better yet, have a trusted colleague take your test. It is easy to make small errors when we create a test, and it is also easy for those errors to totally undermine test questions. So, try to catch them before you accidentally frustrate your test takers. And lastly, number 10. Throughout your test creation process, remember that your goal is to find out how well your learners have achieved the objectives of the course. Your goal is not necessarily to write challenging questions or a hard test. A well-written test question is difficult for an unprepared test taker, and simple for a well-prepared test taker. And that's how you write a killer multiple choice test question.
So thank you for viewing the video. I hope that it absolutely clearly told you how to write good MCQs. Now I shall be resharing the presentation and we shall continue. Now we'll come to the second segment of this presentation, which is about asking essential inquiry-based questions. What are they? How do we frame them? Etc. What tools can be used? So look at the essential inquiry-based questions. These are nothing but the simple who, what, when, where, how, why kind of questions. Now, they do not assume that only the questions that begin with who, what, when are the lower order questions. They can also be higher order questions. Do not assume that inquiry-based questions always are higher order and will always begin with which, why, and how. They can also begin with what. So examples of inquiry-based questions beginning with what defines success, who is a true leader, when is work fun, these kind of questions. And when you talk about non-inquiry based questions, why did World War I start? Which letters are vowels? How did Mary return to her country? And look at these. These are the characteristics of essential inquiry-based questions. They have to be thought-provoking. They have to have higher order thinking in them. There has to be discovery, exploration, go beyond the book. It should raise additional questions. It should spark further inquiry. It requires justification, supports ideas. It needs us to revisit concepts, acquired or new knowledge, and transferable concepts, ideas, and thoughts. So, an essential inquiry-based question stimulates thought, provokes learning beyond the textbook, and provokes further research and questions in students, invites further probing concepts, and generates curiosity about the world around us. So let us look at the tools for framing essential inquiry-based questions. Now this is called a question matrix, where you have in the vertical and the horizontal line some words. So there is what, where, when, how, why, which, who, etc. on one side. And you have the verbs on the other side. Is, does, has, did, was, can, should, could, would, will, or might. So for example, I put up this picture. What are the questions that you will frame where you are using one word from the standing line and one word from the sleeping line? What are the kind of questions you can make? Write some in the chat box, please. इस तस्वीर को देखकर आपके मन में कौन से प्रश्न आएंगे? क्वेश्चन मैट्रिक्स के खड़ी रेखा और आड़ी रेखा को मिलाकर एक एक शब्द उठाकर प्रश्न बनाएं, चैट बॉक्स में लिखें. What is the reason of drought? What does the image imply? See how beautifully you all are writing. Why is the land dry? How can you get rid of this situation further? When did it happen? How did it happen? I'm not looking for answers, I'm looking for questions. Can we help the farmer? Why is the soil dry? What can we do to regain soil fertility? Will it rain? When will it rain? Beautiful. Let's clap for you first before I go ahead and show you some exemplar questions. Look at this. What is the picture showing you? Where did it happen? When did it happen? What can be done to prevent such a situation? How can one survive under such situations? So like that, and you've come up with so many beautiful build-ons. Let me clap for you once again. You've done a brilliant job. You're all great teachers. But if you look at this, all the questions to the top of the question matrix come towards the surface understanding. And as you move away from the question matrix and you move lower from the question matrix, you start building on the deeper understanding by asking higher order thinking questions. So till now, we have seen thought-provoking questions, the characteristics of essential inquiry-based questions, the myth about question starters, and we have seen the question matrix. Why is the soil not fertile? How will the people and the animals save? Can you save the wildlife? Absolutely. Congratulations. So I have another one for you. You can use the question matrix for this image. There is a bear, and the topic is causes of animal endangerment. Let's use the question matrix to frame more questions. Deforestation alone does not make a question. I am asking you to make a question. How can you save the bear? How can you save the soil? Why are animals in danger? What kind of soil is suitable for this bear to live in? How can we? Yes, beautiful. How can we conserve forests? How can we conserve soil? How can we prevent soil erosion? Why are animals in danger? How can we help the animals? Why are bears becoming extinct? How can we save the bear? Okay, beautiful. आपके लिए तालियां हो जाए. So which is a more beneficial environment for endangered animals, a zoo or a national park? This could also have been asked. What might be some roles that you would make to preserve endangered animals in your country? What might be an alternative by which humans protect endangered animals? How do you feel about the promotion of tourism to to the habitat of animals? Maybe natural, maybe man-made. What risk do zoos and national parks pose? So to the left, I'm showing you Bloom's taxonomy. And to the right, I am showing you lower learning to higher learning. The six white hats of Edward de Bono. Yes, thank you so much. So I have put the 6 hats of Edward de Bono, the 6 thinking hats. जो हम गेम नहीं खेलते इसकी टोपी उसके सर, तो 6 रंगों की 6 hat है, और in all the 6 hats make you think. The first is the white hat, which is used for remember or recall. The second is for understanding. The third, being yellow, is for applying. the black hat for analysis, the blue hat for evaluation, and finally the green hat for creativity. And you already know about each of the six uh, facets of Bloom's taxonomy. And so we have three kinds of questions also: factual questions, conceptual questions, and debatable questions. And we'll quickly look at what they are. Now, a factual question is based on knowledge and fact. Content driven, can be used to explore terminology. Frequently used, encourages recall, basic verification of learning. When you look at conceptual, it is on exploration of bigger ideas beyond the book. Compare and contrast, contradict. These are the features. Transfer of ideas encourages analysis and application. But when you look at the debatable, it talks about uses, facts, concepts to debate the position, promotes discussion, explores ideas and issues, encourages synthesis and evaluation. So if you were doing social sciences, then you could see World War I could be your topic. What are the causes for World War I and how did it end could be a factual statement. Concepts: how can political issues influence the starting of a war? How might a revolution be compared and contrasted with the French Revolution? And how was the future likely to be the most dangerous ones than the wars of the past? Debatable questions will include: do we have to fight wars or can we resolve issues peacefully? The factors that influence one war are the same as those that influence all wars. Justify. So before I end the session, I'd like you to put in quick comments and quick questions if you have any in the chat box. I'd love to hear from you. And yes, I will thank Shri Tarun Kumar Sir, Joint Secretary and Head, CBSE, Center of Excellence, Patna, for connecting me to Pataliputra Sahodaya. I'd obviously love to thank Rajiv Ranjan Sir and Insha Rahman Ma'am for bringing me to this session. And obviously all of you dear participants for being interactive and knowledgeable in this session. It's been truly a very fun session being here with you. So if you have anything to tell me, please do feel free to mention it in the chat box. If you think you like the session, you want more of these sessions, you want me to touch up on something again, something that you didn't understand, or something you want more clarification about, do let me know and I'll be happy to help. So there's a very big message that's come from somebody in the chat and I'm going to read it. Chat is also moving so fast. Oh, thank you, someone. Somebody is very happy to interact with me, Ranjit Sahaji. Thank you very much for the honor. I am humbled by your comment. In fact, many of you have truly brought out the meaning of today's session. I am deeply humbled and honored by your comments in the chat box. So let me very proudly tell you, I had seen about 3,004 participants at some point in time in the session. The host may, technical team may please correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you, Preeti Kumari. Thank you, Shweta. Yes, Manoj Kumar Ray. If you want more information, I can take it on for up to 3.5, 4 hours on item writing, because I have done it at the CBSE academic unit for 18 hours. Avinash Banerjee, anytime that PSSC calls me, I'm always there. Thank you to somebody who's a nice lady who's manning the session at PSSC. Thank you, everyone. Your comments really have meant a lot, and I'm deeply humbled.